Get in, loser. We're doing some necromancy. I plan to spend this video convincing you to read the Locked Tomb series by Tamsyn Muir, including all of these books. Should you read all of these books? I don't know. I'm just some blue-haired lady on YouTube. Why are you asking me? I mean, yes. Yes, obviously you should read this book because I am an expert book YouTuber and I am telling you to read this book. And I happen to know where you live. I don't mean anything by that. I'm just saying that I know where you live. Who shouldn't read this book? Let's talk about who shouldn't read these books. If you need to know where you are at all times, if you require where am I going, and who are all of these people to be answered for you at all times, I'm not sure you're going to be happy reading this book. Little things like where you are, where you're going, and who all of these people are, not always answered in these books. But it's a wild ride. It is a wild ride. Somebody pulls up to you in a spaceship and says, "Get in, loser, we're doing some necromancy." You get in the car, it's not a car, you get in the spaceship. You get in the spaceship and you go on a wild ride. This is a wild ride. This is even wilder. And this is just a lovely little baby, and I will hear no negative about my little Nona. Oh, sweetums. Sweetums, Nona. You will say nothing negative about Nona, and if you cannot respect that, you can leave. I do have strong opinions about Nona. This is the second book. First book, here we go. This is obviously a 3-book series, and so I'm not actually going to talk too much about the second and third books because, well, getting too much into them would consist of spoilers for the first. So if you haven't read the first, talking to you about these two would be bad. So I'm gonna be fairly vague about the second 2 books, but I can talk to you mostly about the first book. What I want to say is that the elevator pitch for this book is lesbian necromancers and space. And I'm going to argue that only one of those words is technically correct. Only one of those. Necromancers. There are necromancers in this book. Lots and lots of necromancers. All over this book. There's like at least 8, maybe 9. I don't know. There are lots of necromancers in this book. And they do magic that involves dead things. There are dead things in this book as well. There are 9 planets in a solar system, and each planet is ruled by a house of necromancers. They are the 9 houses. You don't really deal much with the first house, but the other 8 are all in here. There are at least 8 necromancers in this book. But the fact that they are in space is only correct if you consider that you and I are also both currently in space, in as much as we are on a planet that is falling endlessly around the sun. Do I need to get back out my solar system display? We're good. We understand how planets work. Okay, so yes, they are technically in space, but the vast majority of this book is actually spent inside a crumbling Gothic castle that might as well be on the English moors. It also doesn't read a whole lot like sci-fi. You might think it is sci-fi from the in space part, it reads a lot more like fiction, mixed with dark academia, mixed with, of course, crumbling English Moors Gothic castle sort of vibes, right? We've also got some murder mystery in I don't know. It's all over the place, but it reads a lot more, this one at least, reads a lot more like fantasy than it does sci-fi. This one, closer to sci-fi, and this one is actually kind of post-apocalyptic young adult dystopia. I have no idea how we got from one to the third, but it works. You'll understand more when you read them. So we've done away with at least a couple of words in the elevator pitch. The in space part, technically, but not really. Not really. Let's talk about the lesbian part. The main character of this book, Gideon, is a woman who is attracted to women. I'm pretty sure Harrow, who is also one of the main characters of this book, is a woman attracted to at least one other woman, although she might be closer to Ace. I'm not sure. What I'm saying is that I wouldn't call Gideon a lesbian because Gideon would never think of herself as a lesbian, because the word lesbian doesn't make sense in this universe. It is far safer to assume that everyone in this universe is bi and or pansexual until proven otherwise. There is no concept of queer. If everyone is queer, it's not queer anymore, it's normal. And everyone in this book doesn't really care what the gender is of the person that they are lusting after. So the idea that this is a lesbian story or that this is a queer story, if that's what you're looking for, if you're looking for a story about a queer person dealing with queer issues, you're not actually going to find that in this book because it's all entirely normalized in this universe. Gideon doesn't think of herself as a lesbian. She doesn't think of herself as queer. No one questions her about her life choices. There is no recognition that she is in any way different from everybody else in the universe. Everyone in this universe is attracted to basically everyone else. It's a little strange when you notice that someone is actually straight and not bi. And even then, it's questionable. So the idea that this is a queer story, kind of, yes, it does involve a hell of a lot of queer people, and I would call it pretty gay, but I would call it gay in a fabulous way, not in a this is a story about queer people sort of way. So, lesbian necromancers in space, technically correct, but I'm not sure that's giving you the correct picture of what this book is. Everyone in this universe is queer or twisted in some way. Gay in the most fabulous way. And it's actually most of, at least Gideon takes place in a crumbling Gothic castle. I'm surprised Catherine and Heathcliff aren't running around, although they might be, just under different names. I don't know, fan theory time. We can talk about that after you read these books. With all that said, you might think there's some sort of sex in this book. There's no sex in this book. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. There's no smut. There is no smut in this book. Gideon has a hankering for another character in this book. She does get a little schoolgirl crush. It is very cute. But there's no spice level in this book. So, like, if I'm getting your hopes up, I'm very sorry, but there is no spice. There is only there is no spice. There is only garlic. If that makes any sense at all. And I'm not entirely sure that I care if it does. Okay, 9 houses. We have 9 houses of necromancers, okay? I think I already explained that. 9 planets, each planet ruled by a house of necromancers. We have 9 of them, and you are introduced to the 2 that we're going to follow through the rest of this book pretty quickly. You are introduced to Gideon Nav, who is the main character of Gideon the Ninth. She is from the 9th house. She is actually an indentured servant of the 9th house. The 9th house protects a thing called the Locked Tomb, hence the Locked Tomb series. You don't hear a whole lot about what's going on in the Locked Tomb in this book, but that is like technically what the 9th house does. Gideon Nav is an indentured servant. The second main character is Harrow Nona the Ninth. She is the reverend daughter of the 9th house. Little bit about necromancers. Each necromancer has what is called a cavalier, which is kind of a bodyguard, although there are some other things going on with that relationship that we learn about fairly slowly because Gideon is not actually Harrowhark's cavalier. So Gideon doesn't really know what a cavalier is. She just kind of knows the idea of what a cavalier is. She is an indentured servant. She is not the cavalier, not at the beginning of the story. The thing is, the 9th house is dying. The 9th house is dying out. There are exactly 2 people under the age of old on this planet. One of them is Gideon, and the other one is Harrowhark. Everyone else on this planet is old, crumbling, just like the planet itself. The house is not doing well. Harrowhark is very powerful as a necromancer, but that's not helping her planet at all. They have to raise skeletons to do most of the actual work involved in keeping a planet going, because there's just not that many people, and the ones that do exist are quite old. So, 9th house not doing well. Then they get an invitation from the emperor. The emperor is the 1st house. And when I say emperor, what I really mean is God. The necromancer of the 1st house is God. He is spoken of as a god in this book. He is spoken of as a god in all of the books. He is, for all intents and purposes, a god. We don't really meet him in this book. You do hear a little bit about him. He is sort of hanging out over the entire story, but you don't actually meet him in this book. You just get a letter, or the 9th house gets a letter. All of the houses get a letter asking them to send their heirs. So, for the 9th house, that's Nona the Ninth. She is supposed to get herself and her cavalier over to the crumbling castle on the 1st planet. The crumbling castle that was technically the emperor/god's house, but is now there's not really people there anymore. There may be people, but you don't really meet them. There are a few still hanging out at this broken down castle, but this is the 1st house, and since the necromancer of the 1st house is God, you don't actually require people. So all you've really got is this crumbling castle with a bunch of skeletons running around. Skeletons are doing all the work, kind of like the 9th house. I don't know if that's meant to say something, but it is interesting. And all of the other houses, 2 through 8, are also invited to send their necromancers and their cavaliers. Now, Harrowhark's Cavalier is kind of useless. I don't want to say useless. He was meant to be a poet. He wasn't meant to be a cavalier. It's not really what he's good at. He's there because she needs a cavalier, and he's the one who got the job. But he would really like to stay home and write some poetry. He's not big on the sword fighting. He's not big on the bodyguarding of cavalierness. Not big on that. But Harrow still needs a cavalier. And her current one isn't going to cut it, because this is kind of important. This could save her whole house. If she gets through this little test that the God Emperor has planned, it could save her whole house. She really needs to get through it, which means she needs an actual cavalier. And who is there who could be an actual cavalier? It's this lady. It's this lady who knows how to swing a long sword. She's not a great cavalier. Cavaliers fight, with little fencing sword kind of things, little one-handed swords, and she's swinging a great big old two-handed sword around. She wants to go into the army, but she can't, because Harrow needs her to be a cavalier. They come up with a deal, basically, that if Gideon pretends to be Harrowhark's cavalier until Harrowhark can make it through this little test that they're going to and save her house, then Harrowhark will let Gideon go with, references and everything that Gideon would need to make a better life somewhere else. So that is the setup for this book. It is some sort of test, some sort of trial that Harrowhark and Gideon need to get through. Gideon needs to get through it for her own freedom. Harrowhark needs to get through it to save her house. Neither one of these like the other person, but they are technically the only two acceptable people who can go from the entire ninth house. So that's what they're doing. Once they get to the first house, you are going to be introduced to the entirety of the rest of the cast in fairly short order. And this is where who are all of these people comes into play, because there are a lot of people. Houses 2 through 8 have their own necromancers and cavaliers running around. There's also Teacher, who is hanging out at the first house, who is meant to give them this trial that they are supposedly going through. So a lot of people do have problems keeping track of who is who. And I want to tell you, there is, in fact, dramatis personae at the beginning of the book. So you can always flip back to the beginning of the book if you need to. But there is another way, kind of, to figure it out. You don't need to remember all of their names if you can connect them to their houses. And there is a trick. There is a name trick. It's usually the Greek or Latin for the number of the house. For example, second house, Judith Deuteros, du, 2. Second house. She is the necromancer and heir of the second house. Her cavalier is Mardadius, 2. Third house, Tridentarius, 3. The third house. Fourth house, Teterus, like Tetris. Fifth house, Pent and Quin. That's one is Greek and I think one is Latin on that one. Either way, fifth house, Pent, 5. Sixth house, Sextus, 6, sext. Seventh house, Septimus, 7, sept. Eighth house, Octociceros, 8. Name trick. I've just given you the name trick. It will tell you which house they belong to. Those are the necromancers. The cavaliers usually also have some sort of connection to the number. For example, in the 6th house, Camilla Hecht is the cavalier, and Hecht is, I think, Greek. I don't know. It's one of the two for 5 as well. So you can connect them back to their house, and that's usually all you need to remember. You don't necessarily need to remember exactly who is who if you have the name trick. Easier way, listen to the audiobook. Listen to the audiobook while reading or by itself. The narrator of the audiobook, her name is Moira Quirk, and she is amazing. And she has actual, separate, identifiable voices for basically every character that you meet. I can, in fact, recognize who is speaking from her voice before it ever says in the text who is actually saying the words. So, yes, I do recognize the voices. Moira Quirk gives everyone their own voice. You will start to recognize them very quickly. And it's a great audiobook. Moira Quirk is amazing. She is an amazing narrator, and she does all 3 of these books, and the voices stay the same through all 3 of these books. So if you have returning characters in these books, you hear those words and you're like, wait, I know that person. You do know that person because Moira Quirk is amazing. So that's absolutely going to help you keep track of who these characters are as well. Even if you don't really do audiobooks, I would suggest listening to it while you read this, especially since some of the names can be a little weird to pronounce, and because it will help you identify who's speaking and who all of these characters are, because they will all have separate voices. So, first book, there's trials. They have to go through some trials. It involves opening some locked rooms and figuring out puzzles that are in each of the rooms. Gideon is completely a fish out of water. She has no idea what she's doing, and Harrow is not helping her. So she's just sort of wandering around this crumbling mansion, falling into schoolgirl crushes with some other house's necromancer. And it is completely adorable. They do, of course, hate each other, and we love us some messy bitches who are constantly sniping at each other, so let's go. This is great. That is basically what's happening in this book, and then people start dying. Don't you hate it when you're going through a random trial on a crumbling English Moors castle with skeletons wandering around, and then people start dying? I hate it when people start dying. This is also why I'm not going to tell you who are the returning characters. I can't tell you who the returning characters are in this book, because that would be a spoiler for who lives and who dies in the first one. So, yeah, not going to tell you anything about that, but I can tell you people start dying. Necromancers and their cavaliers start dying in some pretty horrendous ways. This wanders off into horror at that point. This does, in fact, get into a little bit of eldritch horror as, undead creatures are killing people. So now you've got a murder mystery, you've got a trial, you've got dark academia, you've got the English Moors, you've got Catherine and Heathcliff wandering off somewhere. I don't know. I think it might be Ianthe, might be Catherine. I don't know. After you read this, we can talk about who Catherine is and who Heathcliff is in this book. And that's the first book. I'm not going to talk too much about the rest of it. Just know that they are trying to do a trial. Gideon has no idea what she's doing. They are all sniping at each other. They are some sarcastic young ladies wandering around. It's very gothic. It gets into some horror. People are dying, and that's what's going on in this book. You will have to read it. if you want to know any more. This is peer pressure. I am peer pressuring you. I am peer pressuring you. Then you get to the second book. And you are going to figure out very quickly, as you start to read the second book, I would recommend, by the way, I would recommend that you either read these fairly close together or you do something to like refresh your memory between reading these books. Like if you leave a year between Gideon and Harrow, you're going to be a little more confused than you probably should be. So yeah, either read these fairly close together or at least refresh your memory of each book. I don't know, read the Wikipedia or something between each book so that you like remember where you left off when you start into the second book. This is the first book. This is the second. When you get to the second, you are going to realize very quickly that something is horribly, horribly, horribly wrong. And Tamsyn Muir is not going to help you with that. You're just going to have to sit there with your knowing and suffer like the rest of us. But it all comes out, okay? You will figure it out. You will figure out what is going on. If you figure it out before the reveal is still amazing. I think I figured it out very slightly before the reveal, and it was still amazing. It was still amazing. The reveal is amazing. But yes, you will recognize that something is horribly, horribly, horribly wrong, and you're just going to have to sit there and suffer in silence with all of us. The suffering is part of the fun. This book is far more sci-fi. This actually is in space. You are on a space liner, not a liner, I don't know. It's, you actually meet the God Emperor, the Emperor. You meet him in this book. He is actually in this book, and you are on his spaceship. And you're figuring out a little more about the actual goings-on in the universe, more than just this one crumbling castle on the English moor. So this is far more in the sci-fi arena. It does also have some horror elements. There's definitely some eldritch goings-on. And they're necromancers. Of course, there are dead things all the time. You're wandering around. You don't go 3 pages without seeing a dead thing in this book. It may not be an entire whole dead thing. It could just be part of a dead thing. Either way, there are some horror elements going on in this book, but this one is far closer to actual sci-fi, and I'm not going to tell you anything about that. You can recognize from the title that we are following Harrow in this book, which might be a little bit of a spoiler. Harrow survives. But I don't know, just knowing the name of the book, I think gives that one away. Either way, we're now following Harrow. This is Harrow on the front. This is Gideon on the front of this one. So our main character has switched. We are now following Harrow, and it is far more sci-fi. Then you get to the third book, and you're now following a girl called Nona. And her 8-year-old street gang. Yeah, she's in like a street gang with some 8-year-olds. Because that is the most adorable thing that has ever happened, ever. And Nona is what you're holding on to here. Hold on to Nona, because you're going to be just as confused. You like this one, you get into this one, something is horribly, horribly, horribly wrong, and you don't figure out what is, well, you know what is horribly, horribly, horribly wrong, but it doesn't get explained to you until the reveal near the end of the book. And then you get into this one, and suddenly, here's Nona, and she's in a street gang with some, I don't know, 8 to 10-year-olds, maybe 12. They're young, children. She's in a children's street gang on a post-apocalyptic planet. And, yeah, that's where you are now. Not gonna explain how you got there, who you are, anything. You're not going to know any of that for a little while. It's going to be a little confusing. Just hold on to Nona. Just hold on to Nona. Nona is going to get you through this. And she's going to be sickeningly adorable the entire time. She's just trying to have a birthday party. She's just trying to have a birthday party. And you know, instead of a dramatis personae, which is what you get in the other books, this is the guest list for her birthday party. And it's like the dogs that she once invited to her birthday party. The brown one by the fish shop, average sized, 4 legs. She wants that dog invited to her birthday party. And members of her gang that she once invited to her birthday party, they include Hot Sauce and Born in the Morning and Kevin. She also wants her teachers and people from some place called the Blood of Eden. What is the Blood of Eden? I don't know. You'll have to read the book to find out. But Nona is adorable, and she just wants to have a birthday party, and she's trying very hard. She's trying very hard, and we love her, and she is so sweet. And I will hear nothing negative about Nona. It's okay, because this is all you really need to know. This is all you really need to know. I need you to read these books. You will know, or you will figure out fairly quickly, that there is a 4th book in this series that is called Alecto the Ninth. We don't actually know when that's coming out yet. And now you're looking at me like, oh my God, you just told me to start reading a series where it's not done, and we don't know when the 4th book is coming out. And I am here to tell you that I don't care. I don't care. I don't care when the 4th book is coming out. I don't care if the 4th book ever comes out. I am happy with what I have now. And if the 4th book never comes out, I will continue to be happy, and I will continue to tell you to read these books. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. Last we heard, Tamsyn Muir was suffering from long COVID, so she's having a hard time right now. She is still working on the book, but I got to tell you, I don't need the 4th book. I would love the 4th book. I would love to read Alecto. I would love to see where this goes. But I am happy with what I have now. I do not require the 4th book. If it never comes out, I will still tell you to read these 3 because they're great. They're great. You do figure out, like, answers are being given throughout the entire 3 books that we have. You do get some answers given to you as you go on. You do start to figure out a little bit more about what's going on. You do start to figure out the history, how God became God, all of these questions that you've had through the entire trilogy. You do start getting answers to those. You don't get, the Alecto bit, but as much as I would love to read it, I don't need it to tell you to read these 3. It helps that these 3 are kind of separate stories. They are all connected. There is one large overarching plot, basically through all of these books, but they are all very kind of disconnected, which is why you end up with, English Moors to young adult post-apocalyptic dystopia. That's how you ended up in that situation, because they are following different people. Every one of these books follows a different person, and they all have their own little self-contained story in each of them. This one is about the trials and the murder mystery and the how do we get out of this castle alive. This one is about Harrow and the Emperor and things that are going on in the universe that could threaten all of them. And this one is, about this little children's street gang who needs to have a birthday party. Aw, poor Nona. So yeah, all of these books are kind of separate stories, even though there is one overarching plot through all of them. They each have their own stories. So you're not like, none of these are like really cliffhangers. You do get to the end of each character's story. This is Gideon's story. This one is Harrow's story. This one is Nona's story. At the end of the books, you have finished with their story and now you're moving on to someone else. So that's going. And like I said, I would love to read Alecto. I am pulling for Tamsyn Muir, but I am happy with what I have now. Each of these books is worth it. This series is worth it. Even if we never get a fourth book, please read it. I am going to be rereading these over the next however long it takes me, because I do want to do a bit of a deeper dive, maybe do a quick plot summary, explain the entire plot to the people so that you could watch that maybe when Alecto comes out and remember what the hell happened in each of these books. So, over the next however long it takes me, you will start to see, funny little things showing up in here as I reread all of these books. I went out and bought these. As you know, I get most of my books from the library, so I don't usually own a physical copy of the books. It's when I really love a book that I go out and I buy a copy so that I can have it, so that I can put it on my bookshelf. I bought these three a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week ago, specifically because I wanted to reread them all. I wanted to have my own copies. I wanted to be able to put sticky notes all over them because I love me some sticky notes. And that's what we're going to be doing coming up. I would love for you to go on this adventure with me. Please, please read these books if you can. If you're somebody who's willing to go on a wild ride with me, absolutely come on this wild ride with me. And then we can talk about it more later once you finish them. Read them all, and we will come back to them, and then we can squee. We can squee about them, and we can talk about how Nona is the best. Nona is the bestest, sweetest little baby. Oh my gosh, Nona. Nona. I love Nona. And Nona loves you. Please like, please subscribe. Please come on this journey with me. And let me know what you think. If you've already read these books, give me a how did I do on the selling it to you, or peer pressure, or just telling you that I do in fact know where you live. Whichever works, whatever works. I'm good. I'm good with it. Whatever. Thanks for watching. Please like, please subscribe, and I will see you in a little while. Thanks.